up everybody and welcome to 2023. I'm back with another video finally, and yeah, today as you can see I've gotten my hands on ASUS's ROG Zephyrus Duo 16, which is their double screen laptop from 2022 actually. So it's been out for like half a year or so, at least that's like how long the reviews have been out from this thing, but finally I got my hands on it. And as I also like to do some videos from time to time, right, I was really curious, you know, how good is it, right? So if you don't know, I did review the ZenBook, ASUS's ZenBook Duo 14 like a year ago, which also had dual screens, and I was really impressed, although there were definitely things on, you know, on what to improve upon, right? So getting this ROG version of also a dual screen laptop, I was really interested in seeing how good is this and how much is it better, or is it better than the ZenBook Duo, right? It has a little bit bigger screen, which is nice, right? But also there's a lot of other improvements, and of course this is the ASUS's ROG, Republic of Gamers product, so it's pretty freaking premium. But should you buy one? Should you get it? Is it as good as it looks, right? So that's what we're gonna try and find out in today's video. So if you're interested in more, then stick around. Anyway, first things first, let's start things off with some specifications, right? So this thing here comes with an AMD Ryzen 9 6900HX with its 8 cores and 16 threads. The 16GB NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3080 Ti will give some great oomph to pretty much everything you do on this thing. And also, of course, it has ray tracing and DLSS support. And of course, we find 32GB of DDR5 memory and 2 TB PCI Express NVMe 4.0 drives running in RAID 0. I mean, this thing has pretty much everything you want from a powerful editor's laptop that can also game. But let's come to the main selling point of this thing, right? The dual displays. Now, the bigger screen, the regular 16-inch screen, is actually called ROG Nebula, and it is, of course, yeah, 16 inches in size, with mine being the 16x10 2560 x 1600 resolution WQXGA Mini LED DCI P3 display that runs at 165 Hz at 3 millisecond response time. That is one of the most ideal screen specs to have on a laptop. Although personally I'd look for a 16x9 screen, because, you know, if I'm editing content, it's most of the time for 16x9 content, right? So I don't know why they chose to go with 16x10 here. I mean, it's a little wider space, right? But yeah, I would have preferred a 16x9 resolution here. But yeah, moving on to the second smaller display, right? That's a 14-inch screen pad plus running 3840 x 1100 4K IPS. And of course it is a stylus pen supported touch panel. The panel is pretty nice overall, but I do feel this one should have maybe been an OLED display. But of course, yeah, I kinda understand why it's an LCD. It doesn't look as good as an OLED, of course, right? But as it is meant for, you know, actually it's meant for static displays when, you know, editing work and doing some work, right? So if a software supports the screen pad plus, there's some extra few things that we can, you know, choose and use on the screen pad plus, which I'm gonna talk about in a second. But yeah, I guess that's why they didn't go with an OLED, because it would, you know, burn in over time. But overall, it's been a pretty pleasant experience. Watching a movie on the main display, or play a video game and keep an eye on some charts, or a Twitch live stream, or both, right? On the lower screen, that has to be by far the best use case for the screen outside of work, right? But coming to work tasks like Adobe's Photoshop or Premiere, the second screen helps out a ton with the extra space. Being able to drag the timeline of Premiere to the bottom page and maybe some other things as well is very helpful and makes editing on the go a very nice experience overall, if you can manage that the keyboard and mouse are at the edge of the frame. Now, as I quickly touched upon software a little bit earlier, I do have to say that the support for Adobe products sucks. It's not great to this day. Very minimal job has been done to get some great things implemented via software to further, you know, improve the use case of the second screen, right? There's just not a lot of stuff you can actually clip to these, you know, this application, at least for Premiere. For Photoshop, it was a little bit better, but I did feel it's very limited to being able to only select a handful of stuff for the second screen, right? But there are definitely some nice things you can do outside of the built-in Adobe support, right? But nothing, you know, mind-blowing. Again, I think the best use case is being able to use the second screen as a timeline for editing in Premiere, so you have a ton of space on the main screen to view the video being edited, right? But yeah, after you finished your workday and you want to have some fun, right, play your favorite video game, that's when I think this dual screen setup really, you know, comes to its own, right? Starts to shine, for me at least. Because what I like to do at home, right? I have a Twitch stream on my second screen, maybe have a third screen for charts or something like that, right? You know, a dual screen on the go, right? In your laptop, which is really freaking awesome. I can, you know, definitely imagine myself being in a hotel room, editing some, you know, videos or something, right? And then, you know, launching up a game that I like and just, you know, let out some steam, right? And play some video games, have a Twitch stream on one side of the screen pad plus, right? And then on the other side I can have my charts so I don't miss a trade or something like that, right? So, I mean, yeah, for me, I can definitely visualize how good a second screen on a laptop actually is if done right. And ASUS has done everything pretty much right here. Although, yeah, the actual support for some pro software like Adobe definitely needs some more improvement. But anyway, let's come to the benchmarks, right? I did run through a couple of games and I have some results for you. I did run through 3D marks, you know, CINEBENCH and stuff like that. So what are the results for that? How good did this laptop actually perform in games and, you know, other, you know, performance tasks? So first of all, I'm gonna put the actual specifications in a corner of the screen, so you always have that in your head, right, when looking at the charts. But yeah, the screen, as I said, it is a 16-inch 16 by 10 screen, so it is using 2560 x 1600 resolution, and yeah, I'm gonna use that, and I'm gonna have all the games at most maximum detail possible, and I'm gonna be disabling anti-aliasing if it's possible. Some games force you to have anti-aliasing, which, you know, hinders the frame rate quite a lot in some games. I don't know why I can't disable anti-aliasing in some games, but yeah, that's the case with some games, right? Now, for first benchmark, CINEBENCH. For the multi-core, it scored 13,723 points, and for the single core, 1,477. That's pretty decent, up to par of what you want to see from a powerful laptop workhorse. Now, moving on to Crystal Disk Mark. This thing scored a whopping 12,404 megabytes of reads and 9,751 megabytes of writes. That is all because of the PCI Express 4.0 NVMe M.2 RAID 0 setup here. And yeah, if we look at the performance, it's absolutely mind-boggling because it is PCI Express 4.0, not 5.0. The thing is, I don't really like RAID 0. Yeah, it doubles your read and write speeds, right, for your drives, which is really awesome if you like to copy and paste stuff like, you know, for days 24/7. Yeah, you can save a lot of time there, right? But if you don't do that, you don't feel any difference versus like maybe like a drive that has like read and writes of 500 megabytes per second, right? A regular SSD drive, right? So why I don't like RAID 0 is because back in 2011, when Elder Scrolls Skyrim came out, I recorded like almost 200 gigabytes of, you know, proper gameplay of that game because I wanted to do a video review from Skyrim, and it was my first time playing it, and I was pretty much almost done with the game, and something happened with the RAID 0 system. Not the drive itself. Both drives were fine, but something happened and I couldn't fix it. So the only way to fix it is format everything again, start from zero. Oh, by the way, you can't, there's no way to recover anything. Like even if your drives work, you can't recover the data. If something happens, you're cooked. So that was really disappointing, and that's why I have never ever used RAID 0 ever again, and probably will never ever still use it again, right? So the main point is, this thing is in RAID 0, which is awesome for speeds, but yeah, if something happens, software glitch or something like that, you're gonna lose everything. You're gonna lose everything here. So I don't know why it's you know, forced into RAID 0. I guess you can go into the BIOS and disable RAID 0 and just use them as two separate 2 terabyte drives. But yeah, just wanted to cover this thing over here. Anyway, next benchmark, 3D Mark Timespy Extreme and Port Royal. So in Timespy Extreme, it got 5830 points, while in Port Royal, it scored 7920 points. To be honest, I was hoping a little bit more here, but it is not the 4000 series, right? So for 3000 series cards, this is perfectly fine. Just with maybe my 2023 mindset, I was expecting a little bit too much, I guess. Anyway, next up, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. As with every test on here, everything to the most maximum detail and 2560x1600, and it got on average FPS of 92 with the anti-aliasing being on low, because you can't turn it off in this game. Great result, well over 60 frames per second at this resolution, and on a laptop, pretty neat stuff, right? Next up, another Ubisoft title, Far Cry 6. So here I ran 2 tests actually, a regular benchmark and a raid raced bench. So here, max detail, anti-aliasing turned off, and it got 84 frames per second, and then turning on ray tracing, it got 70 frames per second. Pretty darn good. Far Cry 6 at max detail, even with ray tracing turned on, well over 60 FPS. Alright, how about Grand Theft Auto 5? Again, most maximum detail even in the advanced graphics, and ran through the last and longest pass of the game, and this thing got 94.9 FPS as average. Pretty darn good once again. So next up, I return to Cyberpunk 2077. Here I like to run through many different settings. So to begin things off, I ran through the benchmark at 2560x1600 max detail with no DLSS and no ray tracing, and got a score of 33.8 frames per second. Pretty low, I know, but we can make it lower. So I enabled ray tracing, and it got 21.4 frames per second as average. Pretty much unplayable, but let's now try to fix this thing by enabling no other thing than DLSS. So first of all, ray tracing on Psycho settings and DLSS on Ultra Performance. And wham bam shalom, or how do you say it, 75.3 frames per second. Absolutely loving it. Yeah, it's not native 2560x1600 anymore thanks to DLSS, but as it is a small 16-inch laptop screen, you don't really notice the difference that much. But yeah, I hear you. The screen is 165 Hz. Can we get over 165 frames per second? If maybe we turn the ray tracing support off, but still, you know, have DLSS on ultra performance. Well, I did ran through that benchmark and got a score of 101 frames per second. And yeah, I mean, it's not 165, but I'm pretty sure you can play around with the graphical settings to get close to it. So finally, there is one more game I wanted to try out, and this is of course Call of Duty Warzone 2.0. Max detail 2560x1600, and it got an average FPS of around 96 frames per second. That's pretty insanely good. And again, if you wish, you can dial some settings down to get near that 165 FPS marker to, you know, fully utilize this beautiful 165 Hz screen. But all these results are cool. But how about the CPU and GPU temperature? Were those cool? Not so much, right? The noise levels, it's hard to cover, but it was whisper quiet when not playing, right? It felt like the fans were never spinning at all, which means this thing is great at saving the lifespan of the fans and the lifespan of your ears. But the temperatures, yeah. After I did all these benchmarks and returned to see where did the max temps go, they went near 100 degrees. Yeah, this kinda sucks. Thankfully, the most hotter spots are underneath the second display, which also, you know, detaches from the laptop when it's opened, so it doesn't really, you know, doesn't really hurt the display. But yeah, I cannot imagine holding this thing in your lap for a very long time. But don't worry, with the keyboard and mouse next to the frame, you don't really want to use it in your lap anyway. So it's not really a laptop, but more of a desktop. Anyway, this concludes the benchmarking, or does it? There's one more thing to cover. The web camera. How good is the webcam over here? The first thing that I noticed is it has a web camera. The second thing that I noticed, there's no physical cover for it. So yeah, that kinda sucks. But how good is the quality? Can you actually use this web camera for video content? Like maybe doing live streams on the go, doing YouTube content on the go? Or is this, you know, hardly just for maybe doing some Zoom calls? So let's check it out now. So this is the audio quality and the picture quality of the web camera here, and yeah, I already did a test, checked it out in my main PC, how because I see the video quality is not that good, but I was wondering how the audio quality is through my own like home theater system, and it's pretty awful. It's awful. Yeah, definitely should have done a better job with this Duo 16, right? Which otherwise is a pretty, you know, a magnificent, a really nice laptop to have. Just really weird that they like kind of like gimped out on the web camera side, like really low frame rate and pixelated like my phone from 2008. And the audio quality was like, it's okay, I guess, for Zoom calls, right? But definitely you can't do like YouTube content, like live streams or something. I wouldn't use this web camera. but for calls it's fine. So yeah, the web camera is it's an absolute garbage. I really don't know why this laptop needed such a pitiful web camera in it, because all the other specifications are absolute top notch, right? It's basically good for some Zoom calls, if even that, and yeah, definitely forget about like doing Twitch or YouTube content. I mean, you can do it, but it's just not gonna look good, not gonna sound good. And quickly coming to some other neat features that this thing has is of course the HDR 1000 display here. So on top of that we have dual displays, right, and a mini LED as our main display. It is also HDR 1000, so if your favorite game or a video application supports HDR, you're gonna have a pretty nice viewing experience. Except something that I noticed which was really odd was if I dim down the display to the most minimal values and then enable something like a dark theme for YouTube and scroll with the scroll wheel, it's something is really odd going on here. But you know, I'm never gonna use it at the most minimal brightness levels, right? But maybe, yeah, it can still have some kind of an effect even if you dim it to 50% or something like that. So yeah, really weird. And yeah, the second thing that I want to touch upon quickly is of course the keyboard itself, right, and the mouse, right. They both are brought to the edge of the laptop, and yeah, it kind of hinders you know, playing or using the ROG Zephyrus Duo 16 in your actual lap, right? But on the desk this is a much better solution because your hands are not over a hot frame, which is pretty nice. But yeah, overall the keys and everything work really nicely, and it looks super nice, works super nice, and yeah, overall the keyboard is just brilliant. But yeah, moving on to battery stuff, right? How good is the battery in this thing? Because it is pretty slim, right? 16 inches, a pretty large display actually for a laptop, and not just one display but two displays, right? And it also has a powerful GPU, CPU, everything. So first of all, what I did was I opened up a YouTube video on the main display, and on the bottom screen pad plus I had two windows open. One was showing me trading view, which is a pretty good thing to have open if we are in a bear market, to maybe pick up some good stocks or crypto at a 90% discount or something like that, right? And on the other window I had Twitch stream opened up. So yeah, a typical scenario I would presume when you're, you know, working or doing something, right, on this laptop. And yeah, the brightness levels were both 100%, and it was using the NVIDIA's GeForce RTX 3080 Ti as the main graphics card here. And why I'm saying this right now is because you can actually disable it. If you're going on an adventure, you can actually disable the NVIDIA GPU and enable the AMD's integrated iGPU, which supposedly helps a lot with battery life. And this is the case here, pretty much. So when just using the NVIDIA's RTX 3080 Ti, the battery lasts around 1 hour, a little bit more than an hour, which is shocking to say the least. But yeah, it is two displays, and I'm displaying 3 separate Microsoft Edge windows there, one displaying charts and one displaying a Twitch stream, another displaying a YouTube video. So yeah, it's definitely resource heavy, right? But then I wanted to see how much does the iGPU, the AMD's iGPU, change things. So I went into the Armory Grade software, disabled the NVIDIA's GeForce RTX 3080 Ti, had to do a quick little restart, and yeah, about 2.5 hours. So that's the difference. A little bit over double the lifespan of the battery if you know, choose to use the AMD's iGPU, which is really nice if you're, you know, traveling and you don't really need to game or something like that, right? So another quick little test that I did after that was actually trying to see how much I can get out of the battery when I actually close everything down and just open a Google Excel sheet or a Microsoft Word, right? So just doing some typing work maybe on the go. Weird thing is you can't disable, or at least I couldn't find a way to disable the Screen Pad Plus, but I dimmed the displays down as much as possible, and I could get around almost 8 hours of battery life for just, you know, typing work, which is pretty nice, I guess. Of course, I'm never gonna use it at most dimmed levels, right? So maybe bring the brightness to 40% or something like that, and you can still get, I guess, like 5 to 6 hours of battery life, which is pretty nice. I mean, very flexible battery. But yeah, with a 3080 Ti and just, you know, browsing the web, definitely wasn't expecting 1 hour battery life. So, I mean, overall, it is a pretty decent laptop, and yeah, I really had a good time on this thing, but there's definitely some improvements that could be made, you know, in terms of, you know, Adobe software integration via software, right? Better collaboration there, in my opinion, is vital for this thing. But yeah, you can definitely use the second screen, you know, as is as well, right? As just like an extra screen, and just, you know, move stuff around there, which is pretty decent. But anyway, my final score for the ASUS ROG Duo 16 is going to be on 8.5 out of 10. And yeah, there's not a lot bad things to say about it, right? If you can afford one and you need a second display, it's like one of the few laptops that have a second display, right? So you don't have much options out there, right? And it is definitely a good laptop to have in performance and in creativity, right? So yeah, overall really had a nice time with it. I mean, yeah, I could cover some ports as well. Some things that I actually wanted to cover about port. You can find every port and everything, every specification on the website. I don't need to go over them in the video. But something that I found like kind of bugging me was that that ASUS, you know, decided to bring the charger port to the side of the laptop, which is, I don't know, it looks ugly when you have a big ass cable on your desk, right? Maybe could have been better. I think it would have been better if the charging port would have been at the back side of the laptop, and there are ports on the back side of the laptop, so I really don't understand the decision to bring the charging port onto the side of the laptop. So yeah, like many people maybe have a cup of tea or a coffee on their table, and yeah, if you move the cable, yeah, it's not a good place for a charging port, in my personal opinion, right? But yeah, that's kind of gonna conclude my video review for the ASUS ROG Duo 16. There might be a new one now in, I think there already is a new one in 2023, so might maybe be able to check it out when it actually launches. So I will have a video out on the launch day, then like 6 months later or more. But yeah, still, like this is my opinion from the Duo 16 in 2023. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like down below, leave a comment down below and a like on the video if you liked the video. And yeah, I'll be seeing you soon. Maybe subscribe. All right, ciao for now.